Back in 2022, the family and I went to Florida for a whole 3 weeks, and in short, it was amazing. Having not been to the Sunshine State since I was a little lad, after so many years, the mind has started to form a sort of rose-tinted vision on what Florida is all about. But still, it was amazing. And today, not only will I talk you through a British bloke's opinion of the States, but we're also going to find every single video game related to the places that I visited. So, let's do this. Cue the vlogging music.
Guys, are we ready to go to America?
So far, so good. The flight was perfectly fine. I got to watch the new, for the time, Doctor Strange movie and Once Upon a Time in Soho, which was easily my film of the year when it was released. And before you know it, we landed, got our hire car, and with very little sleep, drove on the wrong side of the road, making our way to our hotel, deciding not to buy any guns or ammo on the way. Look, it's one of those American washing machines, just like the ones in the movies. Anyway, enough of all that, because today we are off to the Peppa Pig theme park, which just might be the smallest theme park I've ever been in.
That is the front, and that is the back.
Which, to be fair, makes sense, as it's quite literally a small part of this car park dug up and then turned into its own paid-for experience. Which brings us to our first game. No, not Peppa Pig, because who would ever do that? I'm talking about Legoland. Yes, Peppa Pig is attached to Legoland. Easily the better park out of the two, and yes, it does indeed have its own game, released in the year 2000.
Congratulations! You got the job as trainee park manager. Stop by tomorrow to meet the Legoland team.
Yuck! Would you look at that horribly pixelated video footage? Time for some magical AI upscaling. Okay, so the game itself isn't actually based on any particular Legoland theme park. In fact, the game came out 11 years after Cypress Gardens in Florida got transformed into Legoland. But you work with what you got, right? Released shortly after Roller Coaster Tycoon, the game is unsurprisingly a baby version of that game. You have virtually no options, no customizations, and no penalties for things you would usually get penalised over in typical theme park-like games. And worst of all, it's got bloody Mr. Tumble as the narrator for this game, the bane of every British parent's existence in the UK.
Oh, hello!
God, I hate this guy. Yes, he's quite accomplished. Yes, he had the longest running CBB show of all time, apparently. It's just that stupid pantomime laugh. It just drills right through me.
Peekaboo!
And don't worry, because you hear that stupid voice every single time you run your mouse cursor over anything in the game.
The park entrance. Add a road piece to the driving school. Plant a conifer flower bed. Hedge. Western cactus. Select a player. Western return to add a visitor crossing. Cancel. Save game. Exit. Cannot reserve. Pair. Enter your details. Save game. Mechanic. Exit game.
Anyway, that's Legoland, a stupidly easy game that's virtually impossible to fail on. You basically just put down every ride or attraction available to you and buy as many engineers and gardeners as you want until you run out of room, or wait for bloody Mr. Tumble to tell you that you just completed the level, and then you do it all again. Completely pointless, and in no way is it better than pretty much any other theme park-like game or visiting any Legoland theme park. Which is a shame, because when it comes down to theming, I actually think that Legoland, in the UK at least, is the very best that we have to offer. But not so much in Florida. That place has so much competition that completely trumps Legoland, as you will soon see in this video. If you want my review on the theme park, it's, I don't know, a 7 out of 10, probably about as good as what we have in the UK. Sure, it has a few of its own exclusive rides and attractions, but so does Windsor. Not worth the trip on its own, but hey, if you're in the area and you have a Lego obsessed kid like I do, then yeah, you might as well go and check it out. But I wouldn't know about any of that, because I spent the majority of my time in the it used to be a car park, Peppa Pig world, with my daughter watching this.
Jump around! Yes, please!
Sadly, our first day was cut short a little as my daughter became incredibly sick. However, massive props to the nurses at the hospital that we went to that really did look after us and was able to fix her up pretty quickly, just in time for her birthday. Also, as an outsider looking in on this one experience that I've had, the American healthcare service normally gets a bad rap, but for me, it was really quite a good experience. Of course, we had travel insurance in case things like this happened, but the amount of care these nurses gave from my experience was at least on par with what we have over here. But again, this was just one example. I'm sure it's not always like this. This minor setback resulted in us having to chill back at the hotel for a few days. You know, the one with the awesome washing machine, whilst watching a stupid amount of adverts because that's roughly 80% of what's on telly, it seems. Including ones that offer you a drug of some sort, then give a big spiel of about 2.5 minutes or so, going through all of the side effects in terms and conditions, and then the very next advert is a lawyer telling you that if you've taken a particular type of drug, you may be entitled to compensation. It's just so different than what we have to deal with here in the UK. Anyway, enough of all that, because it's time to go to Gatorland, where this happened.
Come on down, guys. This ain't Disney. We ain't got no manners. Everybody can come.
Get back, get back, get back. Go on and throw it to his mouth. Only on his mouth. Okay, look, I'll do one.
Don't worry, the dude's got a stick to protect us. Nothing really worthy to mention here gameplay wise, as there's no Gatorland games that actually exist. And the same can be said for the Crayola experience too. You got a couple of official Crayola-like games, but nothing Crayola experience specifically, well, not yet anyway. I did, however, get some official Slopes Game Room Crayola crayons made up. And the first person to find the hidden message in this video will get sent one. Leave your comments below. Right, it's time to get on with some proper video games. Thankfully, our next stop at the Magic Kingdom has us covered and then some. This is the Walt Disney World Explorer, released back in 1996. I actually owned this bad boy as a kid, purchased back in the 90s, and let me tell you, before the days of the internet, this thing was incredible to experience. This Encarta-like disc allowed you to move Tinkerbell around the screen, click on various attractions, and find out more whilst looking for hidden Mickeys. Oh look, there's one! Of course, there's no point in using this nowadays as it's wildly out of date, showing plenty of attractions that no longer exist, but still, if channels like Defunctland have taught us anything, it's that theme park historians, especially Disney theme park historians, are more common than you think. And therefore, something like this, and its uploaded version 2 release, which came out a couple of years later, showing off the newly developed Animal Kingdom park, was for the time incredible.
Hi. Welcome to Tours of the World.
I know this doesn't look like much, but seriously, having this lady here talk to you whilst interacting with the background, sort of, it was mind-blowing back in 1996. I'd only ever played on a Mega Drive up to this point. Although in hindsight, teaching kids the importance of protecting our sea life by giving them the ability to kill all of the fish by filling the sea with pollution may not have been the best move. Now, of course, this isn't the first time you've been able to visit the Magic Kingdom digitally. That honour goes to Capcom when they released Adventure in the Magic Kingdom for the NES. The relationship between Disney and Capcom was already pretty damn strong by this point, off the back of titles such as DuckTales and Mickey Mousecapades, resulting in plenty more Disney collaborations to get greenlit by Disney, and then Capcom simply saying yes to all of it. The company sent the entire Japanese development staff to California in order to inject even more Disney into their bloodstreams, and after several more typical platforming games, they decided that they wanted to try something new, and the Adventures in the Magic Kingdom video game was the end result. In the game, you take control of a young Australian cowboy-looking character helping Goofy and his friends find the key to the Magic Kingdom in the hopes that you can open it up and let the parade begin. You've got the Speedway, the Runaway Train, Pirates of the Caribbean, Space Mountain, and finally, the Haunted House, instead of the Haunted Mansion, which is what the world's greatest ride is actually called. The reason for this is because Even though this is called the Magic Kingdom, several elements, including the castle on the title screen, are taken from California's Disneyland as opposed to Florida's Magic Kingdom. So yeah, this is just a mesh of both to keep everyone happy. Overall, it's quite nice, and even though it's frustrating, you can complete the game in one sitting if you are good enough at platformers. Just like Matterhorn Screamer. Again, not set in Disney World, but instead Disneyland, this game finds Goofy climbing up the Matterhorn, collecting flags until he gets to the top, which isn't the only game that the Matterhorn ride appears in either, by the way, as Disney's terribly titled Coaster, yep, just Coaster, lets you not only design coasters, but also ride them too. Let's compare it to the real Matterhorn, shall we? Wow, it's like being there in real life. Almost. This game, in case you're interested, actually got a sort of spiritual successor called Ultimate Ride Coaster Disney Edition, which I am certain is impossible to run on any modern machine. Either way, it doesn't matter as it's again not based in Florida. Videos online showed it has recreations of Paris's superior versions of both Space Mountain and the Runaway Train, aka Big Thunder Mesa. Here's another side-by-side comparison for you. Anyway, back to Matterhorn Madness. You can complete the game in about 2 minutes if you're good enough, but you most definitely will not do that as it's stupidly hard to work out how to do each jump. The same can be said for the chase on Tom Sawyer's Island. A Pac-Man maze game ripoff themed off of the wilderness hillbilly areas of the parks, where you need to collect berries so that you can chill out and go fishing instead of whitewashing a fence, apparently. Who knows what any of this has to do with anything else, but hey, here it is. Again, this is a pretty simple game to get to grips with, but damn do those later levels get really, really intense. Toy Story Mania was a highlight for the family on our trip, a rather small but very well respected Toy Story themed 4D theme park game over in the Studio Park, where you sit in rotating cars with 3D glasses and shoot targets to hopefully get the highest score. As a game itself in the park, it's really, really impressive as it actually scores every player in your cart and then tallies it up at the end, telling you who's the best and the worst, gamifying the entire experience. It's also super technical too, with each of the free versions of this ride consisting of more than 150 computers working in unison to achieve the task in real time and keep track of each team as part of its 56 in-game screens. Plus, the animation is exactly what you would expect after watching the classic trilogy. Yes, trilogy, the fourth and the fifth movie, they don't exist.
So long, partner.
Thankfully, this super simple yet elaborate game did make its way onto home consoles, starting with the Wii before moving on to other home consoles. Now, the Wii version is an almost straightforward one-to-one version that mostly plays the same as the theme park release, and to be fair, it's one of the few instances where you want a Wiimote to work the way a Wiimote works. Except for when the game stops you doing this, and then makes you do this. Completely taken away from the fun arcadey action of the original game. You don't do this on the ride. I should probably stop doing this. The PC version does the same. You stupidly use a mouse now instead of pointing a gun or Wiimote, whatever you want to call it, which is about as much fun as the fourth installment. And the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions use the motion controls of the Kinect and Move camera to force you to move out of the way every so often, further pushing you away from that basic arcadey action that the ride brilliantly brings to the table. And on top of all of that, it's a lot more obvious in these home versions that Woody isn't being played by Tom Hanks, but instead his brother, Jim Hanks.
Woody, you've never looked better.
Neither have you, Buzz. Neither have you.
Who, in case you don't know, normally stands in for Tom doing the toys and games and whatnot whilst Tom's off making Castaway 2. Laugh away, but it's still going to be better than this. In conclusion, Toy Story Mania isn't a terrible game, but it's one that makes you just wish you were on the original attraction instead. But then again, maybe that was the plan all along. Also, don't even bother trying the 3D glasses version that's unlockable on the Wii. It's terrible, it hurts your eyes, and it's a massive shame that the 3D option was not enabled on the PlayStation 3 release, a feature that to this day I will continue to praise and then some. 3D PlayStation 3 games were absolutely amazing if you had the right setup. If you have the ability to play 3D games on a PlayStation 3, you should definitely check them out. Oh, and weirdly, there is actually one more version that you can get. The plug and play that's similar to the Wii with its stylish light bar, and although it doesn't look as nice with its super low frame rate, is actually a lot closer to the original game with the gun, and the 3D is slightly better than the Wii too. So that's the game. Regarding the ride itself, it was great. The only issue I have is that it's simply so popular. The queues are always absolutely huge for this attraction, unless of course you pay the big bucks. If only there was a way to experience Disneyland without all of the crowds. Here we are. The wish is granted. Virtual Magic Kingdom, or VMK as the cool kids say. This was Disney's massively multiplayer online experience that allowed gamers to experience Disney World through the eyes of an isometric early 2000s web game. All the usual Club Penguin-like features are here, such as creating avatars, talking to random people online, and playing terrible web-based games. These days, the experience has slightly been restored online at myvmk.com, but unfortunately, the most important part of this online experience has not. And that's the ability to walk around and simply talk with other like-minded Disney theme park addicts before the explosion of theme park history channels existed. If you want to learn more about this one specific game, then I suggest going to check out Expedition Theme Park's channel, who not only covered this at length, but also he and his other half, Super Infused, met up with me and Discord extraordinaire Andrew at Epcot Studios. Hey, look at that, it's me in a Super Infused video. Oh, and yes, the game is a million miles better, even in its current state, to Disney's Magic Kingdoms. The free-to-play mobile game that looks like it would be a typical Roller Coaster Tycoon Disney add-on game, but in actual fact, you walk around, pick stuff up, and when you pick up enough stuff, you can place rides or attractions in designated tiny areas. For anyone that's played Simpsons Tapped Out, then you know what this is. Only this is far more restricted than that game. What is significantly better though, is Disneyland Adventures for Xbox 360 and Xbox One. Now, I do own this one on 360, but it forces you to explore the park with a bloody Kinect, which is way more painful than it has any right to be. And because of that, I played the PC version, which uses a controller and therefore is a whole lot better. The only problem now is that I am playing a game that is designed to not use controllers with a controller, and boy oh boy, does that make this game easy. The exploration of the park is great, really well done, and yes, this is the Californian park again as opposed to Disney World Park in Florida, but all in all, it's mostly accurate to the real thing. The rides themselves are of course different and range from quite good to boring as all hell. Again, as this is the controller-enabled version, it's pretty easy to complete each round on your first go. Maybe your second go at most. But if you ask me, the biggest issue I have with this game is that it's not this game. Disneyland e-ticket was the alternative that was originally pitched and looks a whole lot better. I did a video on this last year with some never before seen footage of a few other games too, so go check that out if you want to see some Epic Donald and Toy Story 3 gameplay, which were also both unreleased. Also, whilst we're here talking about Epic Donald, we should probably bring up the Epic Mickey games that kind of in some levels take place within Disneyland/World. Taken away from the fact that these games are only slightly above average at best when it comes down to the platforming side of things, The design and theming is a hardcore, unbelievable fan fiction like fever dream that you would have never expected to see greenlit. But it was. For everything it gets wrong, it gets another 10 things right in the design and history of Disney. For the Disney historians out there, it's simply stunning. However, it's not the best when it comes down to dedicated video games based on Disneyland/World. That honour goes to the often overlooked, but still, in my opinion, pretty damn good, Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour. Stupid name. In this Mario Kart clone, you take control of a series of mostly unknown and, dare I say it, brand new characters, besides Chip and Dale and Jiminy Cricket, as you race around several attractions found within the Florida parks specifically. And although it looks stupidly jolty in the Dreamcast version, let me tell you that when you get used to it, it's actually quite good on the old controls. You have a brake and you have a handbrake that when used, you can get a short boost. Surprisingly, the game becomes brutal early on, requiring you to master the shortcuts and tight turns of each course, but thankfully each level has modes that require you to search the entire level looking for trophies, and in turn you soon master all of the tricks of each stage. Of course, by today's standards it doesn't hold a candle to more refined titles like Mario Kart 8 and Crash Team Racing, but I still had really good fun with it. And the theming, especially on the Haunted Mansion stage, is the best that attraction has ever looked outside of the park. No offense, Eddie. And in case you are wondering, yes, Haunted Mansion is by far my favourite ride within Disney. And it's this one course that in my opinion showcases the ride a whole lot better than the video game of the same name that came out in 2003, that does mostly include elements from the ride and a few from the movie. But all in all, it's not bad even if it does have a very different story than the original attraction. It has some nice puzzle pieces for each room you enter, and when it does get it right, it really does hit quite nicely, similar to Eternal Darkness in a way, but obviously not on the same level. It's a game that I highly recommend any fan of the attraction checks out. Oh, and by the way, the racing game and the Haunted Mansion game did actually get Game Boy Advance ports too, it's just unfortunately the latter got cancelled. Which finally brings us to a Jungle Cruise VR experience that was very short-lived at the parks, where you sit in a dinghy whilst another big inflatable dinghy rocks you side to side. And of course you got the Super Nintendo game Mickey no Disneyland Dubucken. No, seriously, this is the last one. Again, this isn't based in Florida, but instead Tokyo, but it doesn't matter as several of the levels are from attractions that are found at both parks, so, you know. The game itself is an unforgiving hard-as-nails platformer with a unique twist in that you use Mickey's balloons to navigate and or fight enemies. It's far from the best 2D Mickey Mouse game, but it is still a good fun challenge for anybody that wants more Mickey Mouse platforming in their lives from the 16 bits, which you can never get enough of if you ask me. You can do a whole lot worse than this. And that's it for Disney. I had a kick-ass time in Disney at all of the 4 parks and Typhoon Lagoon, especially the ones that were unique to Florida. The Magic Kingdom, however, I would actually say is really only slightly better than my local Disney over in Paris. It has its positives compared to that park, but then again, so does Disneyland Paris. Splash Mountain beats any water ride Paris has to offer, and the Haunted Mansion is significantly better than Paris's offering on the inside, even though I do really like the look of Phantom Manor in Paris on the outside. But in Paris's defense, both the Runaway Train and Space Mountain are significantly better than the originals found in Florida. Plus the novelty of getting the ferry or monorail from the Magic Kingdom back to the car park as a kid has 100% completely worn out on me as an adult, but then again, that's what waiting 2 hours with 2 sleeping kids and a double pram to simply leave a theme park at midnight will do to you. Overall though, we loved it in Disney, and the Star Wars Galaxy Edge theme section was jaw-dropping. The Rise of the Resistance ride may just beat Haunted Mansion as my all-time favourite ride. Well worth the 3-hour wait in my opinion. I'm gonna need a few more goes on it though before I can make my final judgment on that one. Now, before moving on to our next destination, here's 3 things about Florida that blew my British mind. Number 1, Giordano's Pizza. Yes, it's more like a quiche as opposed to any real kind of pizza, but my God, this was insanity. The best quote-unquote pizza that I've ever eaten. Cracker Barrel, on the other hand, may just be the worst food I've ever eaten in my life. We wanted to try some wholesome American, would you call this soul food? And was suggested this place by a few different people, and seriously, it was freaking disgusting. Both the wife and I felt quite nauseous afterwards.
So, this is not very nice. No, I tell you what, I lie. The shrimp, this is good. This is good. But it's probably the closest thing to just fish and chips that we have in the UK. This reminds me of the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah? But the heavily overcooked carrots, let me show you how overcooked they are. Look, they just break. Same with the green beans. And I mean, that's like some, what did we say this is?
Chicken and bread sauce.
Chicken and bread sauce. So, I know that's chicken, but what is this?
Number 2,
Is that bread?
how expensive is Florida shopping these days? Seriously, it never used to be like this as a kid. Even though we ate out most days, we wanted to have a couple of cheap days in, and it just simply wasn't possible. The cheapest single frozen pizza, for example, that we could find in Walmart was like 6 or 7 quid each. That's bonkers pricing compared to what we pay in the UK. My wife even found a pack of bacon that was marked up to $26. However, it wasn't all that bad because number 3, American fridges are mesmerizing.
Okay, how insane is this? And when you get close, so obviously you got beer. Tell you what's in.
Right, it's time that we continue on our theme park video game path as we make our way to Universal Studios, Florida. A favourite destination of mine as a kid, back when I could go on the Back to the Future ride, visit the Nickelodeon Studios, watch Terminator 2 3D, Jaws, Ghostbusters, King Kong, Earthquake, and best of all, Hercules and Xena, Warrior, Princess, Wizards of the Screen. The only problem is, they've all been replaced with The Simpsons, Minions, Jimmy Fallon, and Harry Bloody Potter. Now look, I know that some rides and attractions get a little bit outdated and they need to get changed. I remember that there was a Murder, She Wrote and Hitchcock attraction too when I was younger. But to replace iconic dominating franchises such as Ghostbusters, Back to the Future and The Terminator with attractions based on properties such as The Bourne Identity, The Mummy and Men in Black, as great as the rides and experiences themselves may be, and they really are in some cases, you can't help but feel stumped as to why Universal would replace these still wildly loved IPs with properties that have already been outdated quicker than what was in their place in the first place. Heck, even the logo isn't as good anymore. Apparently it's E.T. that's the only ride or attraction at the park that can't get replaced. Thanks, Spielberg. He also, according to Californian staff when I went to California 10 or so years ago, will only go on the Jurassic Park ride, which he is a big fan of, if they stop the ride before the big drop and let him off, because he doesn't like log rides, apparently. Anyway, thankfully Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure is the game that's going to help us relive those classic days of Universal with loads of old school attractions, mainly because it's themed around the Japanese park that still has a few intact. The only problem is that the game sucks balls, as you spend most of your time trying to navigate the stupid layout, not helped out by the atrocious camera angles, and when you do finally find a ride, you discover that you can only go on it when you pick up enough rubbish off the ground and shake random people's hands like some kind of garbage hand fetishist. Eventually, you pick up enough rubbish and do these obscure tasks enough, and it means that you are then rewarded a hat, and then you can use that hat to get on the ride, just like the real theme park. all of which play horrendously, which is a real shame because you got Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, E.T. and Waterworld. Waterworld, all of which are in the same game. And as great as it would be to have a game where all of these worlds connect, yeah, they all suck. Thankfully, the real Universal Park, although missing a lot of its early days heart, was still great fun. Harry Potter, Seuss Landing and The Simpsons were huge highlights for the whole family, and yes, we got ourselves the Simpsons donut and I got myself a Duff beer.
Just tastes like cheap beer. It's actually quite nice, it's good, it's good.
And if you want my pick for the top 5 rides at the park, they are Spider-Man, which is probably the best dark ride ever, closely followed by Transformers. The Velocicoaster is easily the most intense yet smooth coaster I've ever been on. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure just may be the best themed coaster in existence. Seriously, Disney, I love ya, and Guardians was freaking awesome, but you're really gonna have to work hard to beat these rides. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey has so much going for it and blends together a crazy number of elements, resulting in a truly unforgettable experience. And finally, Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat Barges is easily the most intense yet fun classic styled river rapids ride I've ever been on, and is the one ride that the whole family love to go on over and over again. It may be surprising to peeps to have this on the list, but for us it's the family favourite of the entire trip that we could all get on regardless of height or age, and we all really enjoyed. Which finally brings us to our final destination, SeaWorld. Ooh, I'm opening a can of worms with this one. Back in its heyday, this park was one of the must-do destinations for visitors of Florida. Seeing the iconic Shamu the killer whale was arguably as iconic for visitors to the Sunshine State as any other classic character. Which was when I, or one of my sisters, I forget, got this. A Shamu, an official Shamu stuffed killer whale. Yeah, I've had this since 1996, guys. Nowadays, however, that's obviously not the case. Thanks to the documentary Blackfish, several killer whales took on the name Shamu since SeaWorld's opening, and on the lead up to this documentary's release, SeaWorld got the captive whales to perform numerous shows, and without a doubt, these shows were the main attraction for visitors of the park. SeaWorld had its big rides too, but the main attraction was, of course, the giant Floridian tanks filled with fish, like Shamu, that were just way too big for the tanks that SeaWorld could provide, resulting in some rather devastating outcomes. Nowadays, that image has flipped around. More and more roller coasters have arrived, arguably the most intense in all of Florida, depending on who you ask. And yes, they still have the penguin encounters and the dolphin shows and what have you. And in their defense, they do seem to be doing a whole lot to help the wildlife in these areas. However, when it comes down to the killer whales, they simply just do not have enough space to house these magnificent creatures. And it's because of this that the name Shamu is, from what I can tell, nowhere to be found nowadays. The killer whale show is now a lot less acrobatic, a lot less frills and spills, and you barely get wet in the splash zones. What you have now in its place is a 30-minute showcase where SeaWorld execs drill into you how they treat their killer whales with respect and look after them to the nth degree, all while Shamu 2.0 leisurely swims about doing 25% of what he or she used to. I'm sure that SeaWorld still need to keep this killer whale show because it's just simply so iconic to the park, but what I saw was just sad. A desperate attempt to plead to the crowd that they can change. Really, they can change. And if it wasn't for this one, dare I say it, kind of boring showcase, I would believe them. For me, everything outside of this attraction was good, not on the same levels as Universal or Disney, sure, and it's unlikely that we will be going back on our next visit, but all in all, it wasn't bad. It's just that the killer whale show is a sad reminder of the simplistic and, dare I say it, ignorant views from people from the 70s, 80s, 90s and noughties. As talented as these animals and performers may be, if you ask me, it's time to move on, as the days of Shamu are long gone. Thankfully, you can relive the days of blissful ignorance with Shamu's Deep Sea Adventures, a 2.5D Echo-like game that is often looked at as one of the worst video games ever created. You spend most of your time in the game scrolling around left and right collecting flashy items before going up against the boss, whipping your tail and realising you haven't collected enough flashy things to move on and do it all again. And yes, the boss is the Kraken, aka the Kraken roller coaster Kraken. Pretty ironic that a fictional character based on a roller coaster is the killer to SeaWorld's main attraction. It's a painful experience to play this game, and it's easy to see what you gotta do, but thanks to the terrible controls, awful hit detection, and a storyline that is a million miles removed from Shamu or SeaWorld, it's a completely pointless experience. Surely a theme park styled game based on SeaWorld would have been a whole lot better, right? SeaWorld Tycoon gives you the ability to create your own SeaWorld theme park and seriously take away the messy history of SeaWorld, because this is surprisingly really not all that bad at all. Of course, it's not as good as Roller Coaster Tycoon, but still, it is a damn good effort and the art style is wonderfully nostalgic, and depending on the kind of gamer you are, the same can be said for the sequel too, which did what Roller Coaster Tycoon did again by going 3D. If you ask me, it doesn't look better, but it does indeed still play quite well. Again, the mechanics of the game are not quite as elaborate as Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, but that might actually be a positive depending on how much time you want to invest. Heck, you can even train your killer whales to put on a show for you, forcing them to perform the tricks that you want them to perform, just like they do in SeaWorld. Here's my whale who's happy, old, moving around, and whose top desire is to have a rest. And that was my trip to Florida, ladies and gentlemen. Eye-opening to say the least. You guys do the best ice creams, the worst soul food, have the world's greatest rides and theming. The weather was great, the prices were not. You all seem to drive at a decent speed, no crazy boy racers from what I can see, but you also have stupidly confusing road safety. Can someone explain what I'm supposed to do here? It's a crossroad with no traffic lights. When's it my turn?
So this is a crossroads. As an English person, I simply do not get it. There's no lights. It's just stop signs on every single way, and you have to stop because that's like the rule, and then you have to wait your turn. So I think it's my turn now. Let's just go. I don't get it. It's so weird.
And guys, I seriously mean no offense when I say what I'm about to say, but why have so many Floridians got a hand missing? Everywhere I went, I saw someone that was missing an arm or a hand. What? Again, look, I'm not taking the mickey or the piss or anything like that. I just want someone to explain to me. I'm just curious. Every day or two, at most, I would see at least one person without a hand or an arm. Can someone explain to me what's going on? And finally, let's wrap this video up by giving a massive shout out to all of the people that stopped me randomly on my trip to say that they like my content. That's super awesome, guys, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do that. It's a way bigger deal to me than it is to you, I absolutely promise you. Plus, massive shout outs go out to Akatimo, Andrew, Wrestling with Gaming, and Mike Fallon for coming out to hang with me at this arcade. Supporters.slopesgameroom.com is the website that all Patreons and YouTube members can get access to see all of my previous content without adverts and without sponsorships, unreleased videos, extended videos, and plenty of other behind the scenes videos, including the unedited versions of the gameplay found in this. And if you guys want access, there are links down below to become a Patreon or YouTube member. No matter what tier you sign up for, you will get access to this website. Just like all of these awesome people do. Aaron Gorman, Agro Crag, Akatimo 84, Amelia Lau, Andrew Dalton, Arista, Ashley Philpott, Benjamin Guy, Ben Zuko, Boots and Pup, Bram Perez, Chev Matic, Christopher Devero, Clan Bob, Conrad Constantine, De Action Saxon, Dina 81, Derakuda, Game Apologist, Ian Quell, Jay is Manchild, Jabba Al Aiden, James, Jeff Mianowski, John Rogers, Jura, Man Shovel, Matt Jackson, Mike Fallon, Mind of the Unsane, Nicholas Bertner, Over Giles Zane, Roll VP, Ray Blair, Richard Alderjick, Rovan Army, Ryan Burford, Ryan Holt, Sir Nilsson, Shade Silent, Shadow Dragon, Stephen, The Old Man Cometh, The Sneaky Ferret, Tim Lunn, Todd Paul Float G, Vitus Varnis, Vike Echo, Ye Old Hamburglar, and Ziggy Golightly. Hope I'm getting that right. All of these awesome names that you see at the bottom of the screen and all the names I've shouted out, plus many more, these are the people that support me every single month and allow me to create videos like this. So if you want to support the show, get access to the password zone, get access to all the videos that I'm working on, all that sort of stuff, be part of upcoming videos. We're just about to set up the next Q&A and the next Kick Scammer exclusive, Patreon exclusive Kick Scammer News, which will be an exclusive stream I'm doing. Then, you know, sign up down below and you will be a part of that. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this rather obscure spin-off video for me. I had a lot of fun making it, but it's back to work for the next video, which is a complete history, and then we've also got a Kick Scammers as well. So much love to you all. This is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.